What I really like about it here is that it feels like a community. Every time I come here, I run into people that I know from the community, some of whom are, famous writers who are making a real impact on the world. So it's great to be part of that conversation as an undergraduate and to come to the evening events and to meet poets.
I've met writers from all over the country and from Ireland, Britain. It's incredible.
It's just nice seeing them, hearing them read their poetry as it's meant really to be read, and being able to ask them questions and having a response to maybe what something means or what they intended it to mean. And also just being able to discuss it in such an environment, you just gain a further understanding of a poem. And I think that's really, vital to the enjoyment of a poem.
If you want to be an architect, you draw. If you want to be a musician, you take up as many instruments as you possibly can. What do you do if you want to write poetry? Where do you go? And here's the place to go.
I have been loosely affiliated with the Poetry Center for about 25 years. So I come to the readings, I come to the shop talks, I come to a lot of different things. And very often I'll just come because it's quiet.
It's a destination, and it is a hub. Its whole point is creative writing and preliminarily poetry, but I think it draws other important, language and political and art-related matters to it. And so I wanted to say also that I think giving an idea or a collectivity an actual space gives it power, and I really appreciate being empowered through the Poetry Center.
It was a little nerve-wracking, but overall, the fact that it was about my mother, gave me the courage to actually go up there and do it. And I felt, pretty good afterwards. Writing corridos and performing them in public is great because they're a way of them to express themselves and write about something they like, and that in itself was, what I was looking for, and, I kind of find my calling.
I may not go on into poetry, I may not become a poet, but I will probably find myself here listening to poets that you have recorded, I think, since the 60s. That's fantastic.
I love the Poetry Center. I don't just like the Poetry Center. I've been in Tucson about 10 years, and coming from a small town in Utah, I was just amazed at what the Poetry Center had to offer. And over those 10 years, those offerings have just gotten better and more vast.
This past spring, I had the privilege of serving on a docent proposal committee to begin a docent program here. And this fall, the training is taking place, and through the docent program, we will be able to be providing more hands and voices and feet so that we can really introduce people through field trips and tours to all the wonders of this wonderful building and add more breadth to the living archive that is housed here.
I use the Poetry Center for workshops and classes, and I think it's a great place because it's so open and airy, and it really facilitates conversation about writing, and also it really kind of presents this community for writers and students here at the university.
The Poetry Center has been just hugely supportive of the community, and not just the community as a whole, but also a segment of our community that doesn't often get much support, and that's the prison. The Poetry Center has been involved with our prison workshops, with helping us distribute and produce the Walking Rain Review magazine journal. It's a prison writing journal.
I called the Poetry Center and I asked about a field trip. So I decided to bring the kids last year. So it was a group of first graders that I brought last year. And they created a poem about springtime. And they saw their words come to life. And in addition to the poem, they created a drawing to go with their poem that was all about springtime. And we got to take that back to our class, and we had it up for the rest of the year, and they loved that. And they would, at school, they would continue writing pieces about springtime.
The thing I really want to talk about right now is my involvement with Lainey Brown's K-5 education class. That's a course that's offered to MFA students, and it enables us to go out and teach as teaching artists in local elementary schools. We read a lot of pedagogical texts, we present lesson plans, we develop more lesson plans, we shadow teaching artists who are doing residencies in elementary schools at the moment, and the program's really focused particularly on going out and serving underserved elementary school communities. The stuff they say will just blow you away. I mean, every young person has something surprising to say, and all you got to do is facilitate.
The Poetry Joey's program is a great place for our kids to come and explore a language, to have fun, to get their bodies involved, and to really use words in interactive ways.
Another wonderful thing about the Poetry Center is it's a way to bring our children to campus and to participate in the university in a very child-friendly but, intellectually interesting way.
My favorite part about the Poetry Center, I mean, aside from the fact that I love poetry, so all this being accessible is great, is the building itself, the architecture, because I usually sit, there's a group of 4 chairs over there, I usually sit on this one right here, and I face that wall with all the windows and everything, and I feel like I'm in some sort of a church. Just, it feels like a church of poetry, and who wouldn't want to read poetry in a church? Like, it just seems fantastic.
I just think it's a gem in the desert. I can't believe how fortunate all of us are to have this here.
It deserves everything that all of the accolades, but it has earned them very, very by lots of hard work by lots of people.
It's not just for students. It's not just for faculty. It's for everyone. It's for the whole Tucson community.
Poetry matters, and that's what the Poetry Center teaches you. And that's really, truly a gift.